Welcome to John Pule's new show, A Time Like No Other. Now I want to talk briefly to this painting. It's called Haeleanga, which means divine residence. Now, in terms of residing, John painted this painting and the other paintings in the exhibition at Niue, in his home village of Liku. Now that's a small village on the eastern side of Niue, where his father handed down land. So essentially what underpins the paintings in this exhibition is this notion of living, residing, being part of a place for a long time. It's whakapapa, if you like, around people as well as land. Now the land in Haeleanga is actually blue, which is interesting because it's been one of John's dominant colours, if you like. It's a colour that he really came to big time after he visited the Kermadex in 2012, and there was a fantastic painting he made from that sojourn called The Great Earth, The Great World. And this painting compositionally follows on from a series of works that began with The Great World and continues still. We get the basaltic physical landscape of Niue, people swimming, people living, people residing in this divine place, and we get this quite lovely, tropical, luxuriant, ebullient growth. Now, originally, John saw these forms as seaweeds, but I think they've grown into more tropical, more land-based plant forms, as well as what might exist underneath the sea. And typically of John, this is fantastic physical, viscous quality in the poured paints. They're enamels, they're oils. He pours them and they pucker up. I mean, look at within this very dark blue-black, there's a wonderful sort of puckering, a scalloping of paint. He pours, he actually draws leaf forms with his polyurethanes. The enamels on top of the oils, they almost resist, they tip, they move, and he lets them. He lets the gravity have its way with the paint, and that gives these a terrific physical, textural basis. He loves that aspect of them. And then, of course, typically of John, there's the fine work, usually with a nibbed fountain pen, as this lovely fine area of blue is. But it's that fine detail that when you come up close, of course, that you really, really enjoy. This canvas, a stretched canvas, is called No Ordinary Day, signed and dated at the bottom right. It's the second large painting of the 5 in A Time Like No Other. This is actually an essay, is it not, in greens. I love the lush greens, obviously again, this notion of tropical growth, but the variety of greens. This enamelled green, there's an oil green, there's an enamelled green, here's green oil stick. Here is a different green again, slightly limier, a very dark green. We finish with a nice pooey, earthy brown, but look at this lovely olive in here and over in here, a darker green again. So a fantastic sort of, it's a breadth of palette. It's not tone, but just lots of greens, making green work. The nibbed areas again, and again that earthed, basaltic nature of land, of islands. John's talked about, and he's talked about it for many years, the way Pacific peoples migrate, the way they move between islands, and they took with them in those voyages plants. And whenever they moved to a new place, if they could, they planted, they replanted. And so No Ordinary Day it's a journey painting, and it's a plant painting. Making ways of living, fecundity, making new generations out of the Pacific. A Time Like No Other is not just paintings. We have 5 of the aforementioned mixed media on canvas works, and we have a magnificent suite of 10 drawings on paper, which is a lovely, lovely thing. John's known as much for his writing as an artist as he is for his painting. And visually, the way he makes script, again with that nibbed pen, is a beautiful thing. This drawing is called Malika Hetaumena Fulufuliwola, which means a glimpse of beautiful things. The drawings in the exhibition are extensions of little notations, of little thought patterns, of little thought forms that John made in diaries whilst he was travelling in Europe, mainly in Europe, last year. So when it came to shaping this exhibition, he went back to those diaries, and certain drawings, certain details that he liked, he just physically extended through this suite of 10 works on paper. Now, a glimpse of beautiful things, the starting point for that drawing was the airplane trip between Honolulu and Auckland. That's noted in his signing and titling of the work on the lower left. What I love also about these drawings is their colour. This Kermadec Sea Pacific blue, the red ink, red pencil, and the drawings themselves often utilise the grid or variations of the grid that in John's particular practice went back to Niuean Hiapo, or Tapa. Now, here's the grid in a triangular blue variant. A house, a church, sun, leaves, another sun, or is it a terrestrial moon? These are forms that John has used quietly through his practice for some time, and you can see in this drawing beside the one I've just been talking about, he extends the grid to take up the whole of the page. The fine blue ink lines, sometimes in quite obsessive and repetitive detail, and he changes those scales as he moves across the page. It reminds me of a net, a fishing net. It reminds me of a network. It reminds me a little bit of some sort of stargazing at night. You know, again, are these suns or moons? Are this some sort of physical sky gazing, astral travel? I love the abstract qualities of these drawings, but they do refer again to movement, to migration, themes that John, as a preeminent Pacific Niuean artist, comes back to often. Pulangi Ataina, freedom in the space between earth and sky. We've seen this palette before, certainly in Aotearoa in New Zealand, haven't we? It's a Maori palette. It's what I associate red, black, and the white of the paper with. This is John's version or variation on this. Again, grid-based, checks, balances, diagonals, and that notion of travel, that notion of looking between earth and sky, of reflection, of contemplation, and his very particular take on that quite universal theme. I did just want to talk also to night, land, sky. I haven't seen John do something quite as sort of lean and abstract as this for a long time. It's that triangulated grid again, but just in 3 colours. The blackness of night, the green of land, and the blue of sky. And this just ebbs and flows. It's got a fantastic rhythm. It reminds me a little bit of a sort of an experimental jazz session or something. He just riffs up and down and across the page in a really, really beautiful and elegant manner, again with his pen, just exploring, doodling, thinking through time. Thank you for watching. I think in terms of level 3 appreciation of exhibitions. A virtual tour like this is, I hope it's been educational, I hope it's been helpful, I hope it's the best I can do. Towards the end of John's show, we're all hoping, aren't we, that come mid to late May, we may be able to have people physically into galleries, on a sign-in and sign-out basis. But up until then, if there's anything you like, if there's any questions you have, if you want to make contact with me, please either email me on jonathan@jonathansmartgallery.com, or you could ring me on 021 236 0017. Cheers.